everyone. We're going to get started. Maybe a few more people will come in as we're conducting this event today. I'd like to thank everybody for coming and appreciate the City of Chelsea, in particular Alex Train from Housing and Community Development for the presentation we're about to see today, and thank you for Community Cable for coming to cover this for those at home. So Alex, I'll give you the floor.
Great, thanks so much, Jen. Good evening, everybody. So my name is Alex. I serve as the Director of Housing and Community Development with the City of Chelsea. I'm joined by Omar Miranda, our Small Business Development Specialist, and I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for affording us the opportunity to share project updates tonight on the city's comprehensive downtown initiative. And so, tonight we'll be focused on a number of projects that are set to occur in the downtown, extending throughout the downtown from City Hall down to William Street. The city is actively advancing infrastructure modernization, new affordable and mixed income housing development, as well as a range of retail and small business development activities that we'll cover tonight. Denoted on the map here are a couple of the key projects that we'll touch on. These include the reconstruction of downtown Broadway, as well as reimagining the Bellingham Square Plaza area, and lastly, the development of two priority sites located at 440 Broadway and 370 Broadway. And so just kicking us off with the downtown Broadway infrastructure project. So many of you have been involved in the planning phase of the project. Overall, the project consists right now of two phases. As you know, downtown infrastructure hasn't been modernized since the 1970s, so many of the sidewalks, utilities, and roadway features that allow the downtown to function on a day-to-day basis are obsolete and warrant replacement. So through this multifaceted project, the city is seeking to wholly reconstruct water, sewer, drainage, and underground telecom utilities in order to separate the existing combined sewer system, which affects water quality in the Chelsea Creek, and replace it with a fully separated drainage and sewer system. Through the drainage reconstruction program, we're seeking to boost flood mitigation. So we're designing to account for climate change and more intense rainfall and storm events. And moreover, we're looking to replace all of the aging cast iron water main, including the lead service connections to the homes and businesses on downtown Broadway. Not only will this promote uninterrupted reliable service for water customers, but it'll also help improve public health. So in order to execute this project, we've obtained a mix of funding sources, primarily federal and state grants, coupled with a significant appropriation by Chelsea City Council, really representing the City Council's investment in the downtown. And so presently, we're advancing the final design and engineering of these utility improvements. We're looking to essentially reuse a large drain that runs underneath Broadway, converting that to a stormwater drain, and install two sewers down Broadway, one on each side of the street, parallel to the businesses. The water installation will be relatively conventional. The city will replace aging cast iron water main from the fire station down to William Street, as well as along some of the perpendicular side streets. And then lastly, the utility program does seek to enhance underground electrical. Much of the underground electrical feeding the street lights, as well as certain businesses, has corroded over the years. So we'll be completing some ancillary electrical improvements. And lastly, laying 5 blocks of public fiber optic conduit, which is going to allow us to set the stage for better internet access and service in Chelsea. That's part of a longer-term project where the city's exploring how to bolster internet access through different forums. So right now we're considering different public internet options, and through the Downtown Broadway project we're looking to lay the groundwork for those options, as well as improve the communication systems for the city, including the police department and fire department. So once this utility project is concluded, we're going to look at infrastructure that is better equipped to handle flooding in the downtown. Moreover, it will promote better water quality. Presently, during storm events, there are sewer overflows into Chelsea Creek due to the downtown utility infrastructure. And so through this project, we're looking to enhance water quality by reducing the number of sewer discharges into Chelsea Creek. And then lastly, from a customer's perspective, if you're a small business owner or a resident downtown, we're looking at a reliable water and sewer system that will be less prone to breaks and random emergency repairs that have to be completed. And lastly, uninterrupted supply for customers. And so as we're finalizing the design of this project, we're looking to continue a lot of our community engagement work this fall. The Chamber has been gracious to host us for a number of small business meetings. Additionally, our team's been canvassing small businesses and residents throughout the downtown. This project will culminate with the hiring of a construction contractor this winter with the goal of breaking ground on the project in spring of 2024. All in all, we're looking at about 1.5 years to 2 years of utility reconstruction, but it won't be kind of constant utility reconstruction along every block of the corridor. The contractor is planning on moving kind of block by block as they sequence work from City Hall southward to the William Street corridor. So as we're nearing that construction start date, the city will be holding a number of community meetings to inform residents about the construction phase, as well as to coordinate logistics. And our goal is to make sure that we minimize impacts to small businesses and promote safety, whether it's for folks that are driving downtown, walking downtown, or relying on public transit. And so as this utility phase is culminating, the city's simultaneously working to redesign the surface infrastructure downtown. As many folks are aware, downtown is encompassed by a number of high crash clusters, particularly dangerous intersections like Broadway, Congress, Cross, 3rd, and Everett, as well as Bellingham Square. Prone to a high rate of crashes, these intersections don't contain modern signals nor traffic safety measures. So through the downtown Broadway redesign process, we're looking to upgrade all of the key intersections to promote safety, reconstruct roadway and sidewalk features, add new safety measures, and then lastly, enhance public transit infrastructure. And so that'll be done through a combination of upgrading bus stops throughout the downtown to make them comfortable, user-friendly, and accessible for all users, including residents with disabilities. And additionally, the city will be looking to install new traffic signals in Bellingham Square, as well as this Broadway Congress Cross intersection that'll both interact with the buses to give them priority, as well as provide safer pedestrian passage. So this process right now is funded primarily through the Mass Department of Transportation. It's through a program called the Highway Safety Improvement Program that's covering most of the cost of the design and ultimately the construction. So it is a long-term project. We're looking at continuing design and engineering through the end of 2024, at which point the project will segue into the construction phase in early 2025. So when you're thinking about this through the context of the utility project, which will occur first, we're essentially looking at beginning this larger project in early 2024 and running through the end of 2026 on both the surface and the utility reconstruction. And so as I mentioned, there are a number of kind of dangerous intersections in the downtown that highlight some of the major safety issues we're grappling with through the project. But beyond addressing these safety issues, the project also sets out a number of goals that look to improve public transit, promote accessibility for residents with mobility impediments and seniors, and lastly, mitigate a lot of the heat island effect that we experience in the downtown. Additionally, the project's looking to improve the visibility of small businesses. Many of the small businesses today are obstructed by aging, diseased trees, don't have great access from the streetscape, and have a lot of curbside management issues where there's a scarcity of parking, insufficient loading space, and a lot of issues getting to the front door of businesses. So as part of this project, we're looking to kind of wholly re-envision how parking functions in the downtown. So through the project, we will be looking to add more parking than exists today in strategic locations, as well as likely moving over to centralized parking meters as opposed to the parking meters we see outside at each parking space. Moreover, the brick sidewalks that we see outside will be replaced with a mix of brick and concrete to improve accessibility. And a lot of the crosswalks and pedestrian measures are going to be strengthened by adding curb extensions, enhanced signage, pavement markings, and other pedestrian safety measures. And so this is a vantage point looking from Bellingham Square. And so the former Bunker Hill building's on the right-hand side here, the gazebo's on the bottom, and City Hall's on the top. And so this visualizes the kind of end condition of the surface improvement project. And there are a couple of key elements that I point out that are the striking differences that improve safety through the project. So first, you'll note that the slip lane that's in front of City Hall here is actually going to be closed off as part of this project. Through the project, we'll be enlarging the Bellingham Square Plaza area to improve public realm opportunities and better accommodate events. But additionally, that's going to enhance traffic safety and roadway circulation. And so this will be an intersection now where if you're a driver, you'll be able to take both a left onto Broadway as well as a right onto Broadway heading south. And a small portion of Broadway in front of City Hall will be converted to a two-way section to improve traffic flow. Additionally, we're going to be adding curb extensions to shorten some of these crossing distances to make it more hospitable for pedestrians. And then lastly, we'll be adding a new traffic signal that'll be helping the intersection function safely and prioritize public transit that comes through it. So while we're kind of enlarging that plaza by City Hall, it affords us an opportunity to redesign that space to make it a more welcoming, inclusive space for residents. And so today, as many of you have witnessed, the plaza has a series of steps that make it somewhat inaccessible, as well as a lot of outdated features. So older plantings, seating that is aging and not very comfortable, as well as portions of the plaza that aren't accessible to all users. And so we're looking to re-envision this space as a welcoming place that the community can hold events in and residents can bump into their neighbors and socialize in on a daily basis. Moreover, the project's looking to add a lot of more green space. So right now the plaza is primarily brick and cement, making it relatively uncomfortable during summertime months. And so by expanding the area that we have to work with, it represents a lot of opportunity to install a lot more trees, shrubs, and other types of plantings. And then lastly, we're looking at both the plaza as well as the areas around City Hall to make them more conducive for public events. And so right now, for instance, on the Broadway side of City Hall, there are a lot of events ranging from speaking events to protests that occur, and it's not necessarily configured to accommodate the public well. And so as part of this redesign project, we're going to be looking at really opening that space up so folks can access it and make it better for congregation. So this is a sort of conceptual sketch of what that could actually look like. And the areas that we're kind of tackling as part of this project include the perimeter around City Hall, including the addition of new street trees, that courtyard area on Broadway, the Washington Ave entrance to City Hall, which today consists of a number of stairs, the wheelchair ramp up to one of the side doors along City Hall, which has to be replaced as it's aging and it's been damaged. And then lastly, the Bellingham Square Plaza area. And you can see here where we've been able to enlarge the plaza slightly towards the point because of that removal of the slip lane that I mentioned. And so ultimately, we're looking to create sort of a passive recreation area in the plaza consisting of new seating, public art, plantings, and an irrigation system. And then in the courtyard along the Broadway entrance of City Hall, we're contemplating shifting the two statues that are in the grassy areas here back closer to the building facade in order to open that space up to different types of community events. while ensuring that we're paying homage properly to those statues by creating memorials along both sides of the City Hall staircase. And then throughout the perimeter of the site, we're looking at installing both new native trees, planted landscaped beds, and reconstructing the staircases and ramps to City Hall. So this is a project that we're designing in tandem right now with the Downtown Broadway effort. An estimate of cost ranges from about $1.8 to $2 million. And so although we have some financing secured for it, we are going to have to aggressively pursue outside grants in order to make this a reality. But throughout the course of winter of 2023 and first half 2024, working with the community to redesign the space is going to be a major priority of ours. And from there, we'll look to secure funding and bring this to fruition when Downtown Broadway is under construction. And so the other topic that we wanted to cover tonight, shifting gears slightly, are a couple of the different housing and retail development projects that are underway downtown. And so recognizing that all these different efforts are going to unfold simultaneously, we're extremely sensitive to the cumulative impact that it could have on residents and businesses. And so as we are designing these efforts and working with partners, we're looking to be as deliberate as possible about both sequencing these projects as well as managing them once they're in the development phase. And so the city, through our comprehensive housing strategy, is aiming to promote affordable and mixed income housing development in the downtown as well as near public transit locations. And so in the downtown core, this consists of an opportunity to create new transit near, or new housing near public transit, as well as create housing atop of ground floor retail spaces. On the retail and commercial side, similar to the housing market, a lot of small businesses are experiencing rising rents. And so taking this into account, the city's looking to create retail spaces that are affordable and accessible to both existing small businesses as well as new entrepreneurs that are looking to open up their businesses. And so the two projects that kind of embody all of these goals include the 440 Broadway redevelopment and the 375 Broadway redevelopment. And so this image depicts the proposed redevelopment of 440 Broadway, formerly known as the Salvation Army building. The city acquired this building a number of years ago to create a new affordable housing opportunities. We've partnered with the Tregorth Companies, an affordable housing developer, to repurpose the building as 28 units of affordable housing for first-time home buyers. And so presently the design calls for the creation of a 5-story building consisting of retail on the ground floor and 4 stories of residential up above. And there will be 28 affordable home ownership opportunities for first-time, first-generation home buyers created throughout the building, ranging from 2-bedroom to 3-bedroom units. On the ground floor, we're working with the Hispanic American Institute as well as the Chamber on envisioning that space as a culinary incubator. And so right now, throughout the downtown core, as well as greater Boston more generally, retail rents are rising significantly. And so we're looking at how can we create a retail space that new businesses and startups can afford to get into. And so right now, we're carrying out a feasibility study and design process that looks at creating a shared retail space on the ground floor that could accommodate anywhere from 6 to 8 culinary businesses, back-ended by a communal kitchen and a seating area for the public. So it functions almost as a small food hall, but would have on-site business counseling and other small business resources to help support the entrepreneurs that are ultimately going to be in there. And through this project, we're also looking at different ways that we can both generate revenue for the space to ensure that it's sustainable and lower rents in the building to ensure that all new startups can have a chance to do business on downtown Broadway. I think the other couple notable pieces about this project, so from a sustainability standpoint, this represents the second Passive House project we're doing. So Passive House represents kind of the highest sustainability standards in the design and construction trades. So this building will be all electric, it'll have rooftop solar, and it'll be a zero carbon building, so it'll actually use less carbon than it's going to be emitting due to energy efficient appliances, low flow fixtures, as well as the rooftop solar. Additionally, this will be the first building that we're going to look to get a certification called the WELL certification on, and this signifies kind of the highest standards for designing spaces for indoor comfort and public health. So the building is going to have a specialty HVAC system with an air filtration piece that will allow for good indoor air quality, and also look at ways to prevent both air leaking out of the building, which can make it energy inefficient, and other methods of controlling energy use on site to both make it comfortable and lower those energy bills. And then the last project that we wanted to touch on tonight is the 375 Broadway project. And this is a project we've talked a little bit less about over the last few months as we've been planning throughout the course of the summer. But currently, this project is a 19-unit apartment building with a number of retailers on the ground floor. Metro Credit Union is one of the cornerstone tenants. And the back of the building has a parking garage that a lot of businesses and residents lease, highlighted in yellow here. And so as part of this project, the city, in partnership with ARCS Urban and Boston Communities, is seeking to oversee the renovation of the existing 19 housing units on the left-hand side here, as well as the addition of a new building on top of the old parking garage, 42 new units of affordable housing. So all in all, this would yield approximately 63 new units of mixed income housing. And there would be kind of a workforce housing component for moderate income and middle class residents, as well as different tiers of affordable housing in the building, including housing for formerly owned homeless families and housing for individuals. And so the other interesting aspect of this project is it's the first kind of downtown project that we're approaching, where there's a variety of existing retailers on the ground floor. And because of the displacement risks that are confronting small businesses right now, we've been looking at methods of stabilizing those small businesses both during the project and after the project. So the city's entering into an agreement with the development firm for the ground floor retail. So essentially, these retailers on the ground floor here are on kind of standard leases right now, and the city has reached agreement with the developer that they'll enter into below market leases. So that means that the small businesses will have long-term leases once the project's done at a rent that will be significantly lower than retail rents in the downtown. And we're able to pay for a lot of that by mixing this with the housing project. So a lot of the revenue that is generated from the housing project can kind of offset that cost. And so when it's all said and done, the project will be somewhat tucked away. And although it is adding, a new building, of significant height in the downtown, we've looked to deliberately place that farther away from Broadway, so it's not peering over the corridor. And the ground floor will still remain a parking garage to serve both residents that drive and residents that bike in their daily commute. So this project right now is one that we're pursuing funding for. So presently, the developer, in partnership with the city, is applying for state financing and federal financing for the project. If those endeavors are successful, we're estimating that the project would break ground in fall or winter of 2024. And similarly, this is about a 1.5 year construction phase in order to renovate the existing units and develop the new building in the back. From a sustainability side, this will also be a passive house project. So we're aiming to institute rooftop solar as well as a lot of energy efficiency measures on site. And we'll be working with all the small businesses on the ground floor to upgrade the facades, replace signage, and do energy retrofits of their space to try to reduce their utility bills. So that's essentially everything. I know that was a lot in terms of project information, but there's a lot going on in the downtown, and we wanted to make sure folks were informed Omar and I's contact information is down below if you ever want to reach out. But I'll stop there and happy to answer questions that folks might have or talk about these projects further.
So there were a few chamber members that couldn't attend today's meeting, but they did have a couple of questions. And everyone is super excited for everything that's going on in City Hall, Bellingham Square, and even the downtown corridor. And acknowledging the infrastructure work that's happening in Upper Broadway. What's the plan for the business owners on that side of Broadway in regards to maybe storefront improvement and just trying to spruce up some of the Upper Broadway area, kind of connecting into Revere?
Yeah, that's a great question. So presently the city's overseeing the Upper Broadway reconstruction project. So that's spanning from City Hall Ave to the Revere City line. And presently the utility reconstruction phase is underway. Surface reconstruction's set to start in spring of 2024 and last about a year. So this winter, the city is planning on approaching City Council with a funding request. So every year or two, our city manager would submit a request to council for funding, primarily for the downtown initiative, as well as for other economic development projects. So our goal is to request funding from council for another round of the storefront improvement program to be able to roll that out on a citywide basis, whereas right now it's confined to the downtown. We're also happy to work with businesses during that construction phase because we recognize that's going to inevitably impact folks. But I think in the near term, those facade improvement projects are probably the closest on the horizon.
Thank you.
Alex, is this presentation available in hard copy?
I don't have them with me, but I'm happy to print some out
Okay.
and run them over to you. Absolutely.
Oh, we'll take a few
Yeah.
minutes too.
Sure.
Oh, we have the presentation.
Oh, do we?
Yes, he emailed it to us.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, okay. Can we get it via email?
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that.
We can
Thanks, Al.
distribute.
Okay.
Alan, this may be a personal question. When you're driving down Broadway from the library down possibly to Webster Avenue, it's kind of a bumpy ride. It's been a bumpy ride for a long time. Does anybody else recognize that? Is anything being done to reconstruct that or fix it up somewhat?
Yeah.
It's really bumpy.
So we are planning on reconstructing that road next year.
Okay.
And so from City Hall all the way up Broadway to where Beth Israel and the hotel is,
Yes.
we're going to be redoing all the sidewalks and repaving the roadway.
Thank you very much.
Is there any chance, just to follow up, between the time that they finish for the winter and start again in the spring, is there any way to put a top coat on that area? It's awful, worse than it's ever been. I know at one point they did it from, I think, Eleanor up toward the Revere line. Now that's all chopped up again.
Right.
But if they could just find the money to put some sort of a top coat, because they have done an awful job of patching.
Yes, it has.
They're great to work with, but the patching has been abominable.
Absolutely. We could certainly explore it. I know when we were redoing the water and sewer utilities on Upper Broadway, we did that one winter. We targeted kind of the areas in worse shape and did a quick top coat, and it was not terribly expensive. So happy to look into it with DPW and the contractor.
Alex, with regard to the traffic lights implemented on Broadway, is it just two locations on Broadway?
Yeah, so right now, the proposed locations are going to be Bellingham Square and then this larger intersection down here. As part of a separate project, we are looking at signalizing the Park Square area and then tying all those signals together so they can kind of communicate to one another and be synchronized. And then at 4th Street over here, that will remain kind of a stop-controlled intersection. We looked at adding a signal there. We also looked at adding signals at City Hall Ave, Face Square, and a few other intersections in the downtown. But they didn't meet there's like a federal evaluation you have to do, and if they don't meet certain standards, the feds won't fund it. So those are the intersections right now as part of this project that we're committed to, and then longer term it would be Park Square.
And does the project still include the bus lane and bike lanes with regard to having the lights as well?
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah. So the bus lane is going to remain as part of that. The lights will be coordinated with the buses. So as buses approach the new lights, they'll be able to, similar to how like the fire trucks are able to coordinate directly, they'll be able to coordinate with the lights, providing them with priority through that intersection. We'll also be able to adopt new intelligent traffic controllers, which will allow the lights to adjust based on traffic patterns. So it should, speed a lot of traffic up at some of the more congested intersections.
Alex, I have another question. With the redevelopment of the City Hall Bellingham Square area, are any of the bus stops that are currently there going to be relocated? Like the one in front of the Phoenix Charter School and the one directly in front of, kind of at the corner of Fifth and Washington?
That's a good question. So presently, most of the stops are going to stay where they are. The stops at Bellingham Square next to Dunkin' Donuts, that's going to be enlarged slightly as part of the project. And then there are two stops at City Hall Ave and Broadway. If you're going south down Broadway to take a right onto City Hall Ave, there's one immediately on your right, and then right after the corner there's a second one. Those are redundant, so we're looking to consolidate those into one. The MBTA is pushing us on moving the bus stop that's next to the Civil War Monument. And so we haven't agreed to it yet nor committed to it, but just given the location of it, they see it affecting transit operations. So we are looking at that with them right now, but given how heavily used that is, we've been pretty adamant that stop needs to stay where it is or as close to where it is as possible.
Will a shelter eventually be put on the one that's at the corner of Broadway and Fifth? I mean, Washington and Fifth?
Washington Fifth, we're going to be doing shelters there. The only shelters we're not going to be doing are the ones that are like the historic ones in front of the old Bunker Hill building and in Bellingham Square. And then the new stops along all of Broadway will be getting new shelters.
What's going to be done to protect the small businesses from City Hall all the way down to Chelsea Square while all this excavation is taking place for the sewers and water and drains and all that?
That's a good question. And so we've been doing a lot of business engagement throughout the design phase, and one of the biggest points of concern that we hear is around construction phase impacts. What happens when the parking in front of my business is inaccessible and it causes me to lose clients? What happens if the whole block is shut down and folks can't traverse the road over to my business? And so there are some kind of common sense planning solutions that we can implement to improve that slightly around how we're managing the sequence of work and ensuring that the contractor is only using the amount of space they honestly need. But I think more broadly right now we're having a discussion around business mitigation and what that could look like. Chelsea hasn't done this before. A lot of construction here has gone on, and some has impacted small business negatively. I think in the downtown we're particularly concerned coming out of the pandemic because margins are thin, some small businesses are facing instability, and rents are rising. So we are having kind of internal dialogue about business mitigation and what that could look like. Could it be direct grants to businesses? Could it be short-term loans? What are those financial tools that the city could consider? All that will require money from City Council ultimately. So we do encourage folks to advocate directly to councilors on that particular subject, since that will be one of the more kind of expensive pieces of the downtown project.
You mentioned 440 Broadway in terms of how many units did you say were going to be there?
Yeah, so 440 Broadway, cycle back to the slide. It's going to be 28 new units. So it'll all be affordable home ownership opportunities for first-generation home buyers. Funding is being provided through the Mass Housing Commonwealth Builder Program, which is a housing equity program keyed around creating first-time home ownership opportunities in gateway cities. So it'll be a mix of 2 and 3 bedroom units that are going to be affordable for residents at a range of incomes between kind of 70% AMI to 100% AMI. So some affordable condos and then some moderate income condos. So it will be kind of truly mixed income. I don't have pricing yet, but on the ones that we're doing currently, the average pricing runs between, $250,000 to $300,000 for the larger 3-bedroom units. So we're looking to make this as accessible as possible through that financing part. I think the other part is we're looking at how we can better serve kind of residents with down payment assistance coming into this project. So it's something that we haven't solidified yet, but we will be looking to enhance down payment assistance so incoming buyers can kind of tap that in order to purchase the units.
So they're for purchase, not rental?
These are all for purchase,
Okay.
and then the 375 is going to be all rental.
And what's the timeline of construction phase for 440?
Yeah, so 440, we're applying for funding currently with the goal of closing on financing by January of 2024. So assuming all of that goes smoothly, we'd be looking at demolition in April or May of 2024. And then there's a 1.5-year long construction phase. So by the end of 2025, we hope to have the project fully wrapped up.
I just have one more question. So just in terms of the overview and the whole planning of the downtown corridor and beautifying and adding affordable housing, and great stuff, great plan. But in terms of the face, right? So when you drive down Broadway now, it's not coordinated, so to speak. Storefronts are very different and unique, and sometimes there's some improvement now, but it could kind of give you the Taiwan look, so to speak. It's just so inconsistent and sometimes loud and sometimes run down. So in terms of consistency, are you focusing on, meeting with business owners to get a uniform type of landscape? Yeah.
So you are managing the project today, so you know this far better than I do.
Yes. So we partner with the chamber, and we're doing the storefront improvement program. We talk with them a lot, and when we do the guiding process of design, we try to show them other example of businesses. Some of them like neighboring signs. So it is a good thing. The city also have guidelines of what type of signs and how you can put that they're not too far off from your building, certain lighting, etc. Obviously, there's a lot of old signs, and they're very expensive. So it's little by little getting better. But yeah, we wanted to look uniform and not like all these different colors, different styles of signs. But we're trying our best.
Yeah, I appreciate it, because if you're investing billions in so much money, you want to at least, focus on the landscape.
So this year, we just finished 6 signs, and we're starting the sign process of 8 more businesses. And we also finished a mural like last week on Yogi's Market up in Upper Broadway. So we're trying to, give business owners something, to give it a facelift, and make it look more joyful and welcoming.
Thank you.
So I have a concern as a follow-up to my question about what the city would be doing for the small businesses. So you and I had talked, and I had brought up the possibility at Upper Broadway of waiving the alternate side street cleaning parking rules when the work was going on. I mean, quite frankly, it didn't affect my business at all. It's an office, people were able to get in. But the construction takes away half to all of the parking in probably a 3-block area. And it's just unfair, and as you said, you proposed it to the city really wasn't that interested. I think the city needs to be interested in the inconvenience that this is going to pose for the small business owners, the residents, and everyone else in the city. These projects are wonderful, they're exciting. I hope I'm still around when they're completed. But in the meantime, all the people who are dealing with the dirt and the traffic and the broken up roads, they need to be considered. Not just we'll look into it. I mean, that, the whole parking thing, what would it have cost the city to not enforce the alternate side parking for 3 or 4 weeks while they were in front of particular businesses or houses? It makes no sense to me, Alex.
No, absolutely, and particularly in the downtown here where, you know, the density of parking is a lot higher, and a lot of businesses are reliant on that parking. Not just parking, but clear sidewalks for pedestrians to travel into the businesses. It's critical. And so I think this is where the development of a business mitigation plan is really coming into play. Because there are financial tools that the city can utilize, but there are also these kind of non-financial tools, more common sense coordination items that, you know, we should be focused on, and, you know, through our project management will be focused on. But some of them do require kind of policy adjustments by the Traffic and Parking Commission and ultimately City Council. So I think, you know, we want to be able to map those all out with the business community, come up with a concrete plan, and then collectively work with City Council and the Traffic Commission to see the passage of those. In the downtown, for instance, you know, there's the street sweeping issue. There's also, you know, whether we can better utilize some of the parking on the side streets during construction by loosening restrictions or making that free for folks. So I think there are a different assortment of tools in the downtown when compared to Upper Broadway, but a lot of the basis is the same, as you're pointing out. These are common sense solutions and, you know, could take a painful situation and make it a bit better for a lot of businesses.
Do you think that the closing of the Sumner Tunnel next year will need to be considered as a factor in some of this?
Absolutely. As we witnessed this summer, you know, the closure, you know, precipitated traffic primarily around Park and Pearl Street up through the downtown. And so one of the efforts we're working on currently is a new congestion management system for Williams Street. And so in consultation with the police department, Traffic and Parking Commission, and our consulting engineers, we're looking to upgrade all the traffic signals along Williams Street with better technology to manage congestion along there. So the goal there is to make Williams Street the easiest route to use, the quickest route, and the one that can get you to Route 1 the fastest. As part of that, we're also looking at next summer whether we should be closing down Park Street again and Pearl Street on certain occasions. So this year we put a detour plan into effect. It closed Pearl Street during points of the day where congestion was really unbearable. And it kind of worked. It shifted traffic to Williams Street and kept it on the periphery of the downtown. And so I think next summer that's going to be one of the items we look at. You know, can we close Pearl Street and keep it open only to local traffic? So we route all the traffic around the downtown during the Sumner Tunnel closure.
May I add on the police side of things? So during that project, the Sumner Tunnel project, police details were also hired in abundance, funded by DOT. We pretty much strategically placed officers at certain locations where if it got congested, there would be an officer there waving traffic through. Those locations would pretty much add 3rd and Broadway, 3rd and Chestnut. There were also officers down by the courthouse, by Williams and Chestnut. And we also closed, unfortunately, a lot of folks didn't like this part, but the area on Chestnut at Beacon. And that's so traffic coming down wouldn't be barreling into pedestrians on Williams and Chestnut. So Park Square did get congested, but because we had officers at Broadway and 3rd and also 3rd and Chestnut, it kept the flow ongoing. And then coupled with the Pearl Street closing, buses were rerouted when necessary down the rest of Williams, taking a right onto Park Street, and then resuming their pretty much pathway by Roca, where they would have picked up anyways. So we're definitely following that closely, just to make sure like everybody will have the ease of travel. I know Mass DOT had a campaign for, you know, ditch to drive and all that, and hopefully next year it will be better and go into fruition. A lot of people prefer to drive though, right? Nothing like the comfort of your own vehicle, we get that. but
Well, the T has reliability issues. so
yes, that's,
also-
I think them making it free was also very helpful. You know, a lot of folks benefit from that, you know, of all age groups. So I hope they continue to do that. And from the police point of view, we're definitely gonna continue, you know, doing our best on our end as well.
I think the other item I'll add is that the chief this year in particular was very deliberate about when construction was permitted to occur in the downtown. So there were repairs that we looked to do or other contractors looked to do during the day that the chief said absolutely not until traffic's alleviated. And so by limiting that daytime work during the closure, we were also able to incrementally address it. So when we look towards reconstructing downtown Broadway, that's another factor. How much of this work should occur during standard daytime hours during the tunnel closure versus off hours.
And I appreciate that, just to piggyback off of that, because it was important. I felt like we were reactive as opposed to proactive with this whole project, in terms of when Sumner Tunnel closed. So to be proactive and think about, troubleshoot through, what's going to work, because it was horrendous for residents. And just to have that conversation at a larger scope with, what is it, Sumner Tunnel, and is it, it's on the tip of my tongue, where the organization that, I'm sorry, Department of Transit, whoever is running that, just to be more mindful of Chelsea, and you know what, get into ways and divert that traffic to another, Revere or something. Let's do a little hacking of the system. But it was just very, very frustrating, and just to be proactive and thinking through what worked this time, and maybe, change that, as well as construction should stop during those hours, because the task was big enough in Chelsea Police trying to divert it.
Absolutely. I think really diverting traffic next year to some of the main corridors like Williams will be important. Because this year we saw folks, if you lived on Essex Street, you couldn't get off Essex Street for half an hour on a weekday. Just taking, when I went grocery shopping, it would literally take me 20 minutes to go from, my house over to Market Basket. And so absolutely want to make sure that we have detour routes that work. The state rolled out detour routes that ultimately a lot of folks didn't follow because they were also congested and took a while. So I think having that conversation now, as you mentioned, is a good first step.
Alex, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Once again, I just want to thank everyone for coming out to attend. Just a friendly reminder, we do have these community outreach meetings once a month. Please spread the word, invite a friend. It's just a great opportunity to learn what's going on and just to be able to have your voice heard. So once again, thank you Chelsea Community Cable, and thank you everyone for being here, and thank you to the City of Chelsea, in particular, Alex Trey, Director of Housing and Community Development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.